Alwa. Officer, I'm fully aware of your playbook, and that's why I've been documenting you for half a year. It's 9:47 p.m. on a rain-lashed Tuesday. Captain Marcus Hale freezes beside a battered Honda Civic, his flashlight cutting through sheets of water to catch Naomi Carter's face. The 36-year-old black public defender meets his stare without blinking, her sentence suspended in the mist between them. Hale's jaw holds, unreadable. Water drips from his cap, ticking against chrome. Naomi's recording app hums from her pocket, tiny red light, steady as a heartbeat. The road is empty, the storefronts dark, the sky stitched with lightning. Every second already feels like evidence. How does a meticulous public defender with an unblemished record wind up with 3 kilograms of cocaine stuffed in her trunk during a routine stop? Hale's practiced smirk dissolves. First confusion flickers, then anger, quick as lightning. His gloved hand hovers near his holster while rain needles the asphalt, drumming louder with each heartbeat. This stretch of Millfield's east side is desolate tonight. No traffic, no pedestrians, only shuttered shops and pooling gutters. What should have been a simple citation has drifted wildly off script. Naomi squares her shoulders, tasting metal in the back of her throat, and knows the scene was chosen, the timing engineered. Naomi Carter carved out her career defending people who couldn't afford anyone else in Millfield, a Rust Belt town where the color line feels older than the mills. 9 years in the public defender's office earned her loyalty from clients and side eye from plenty of cops. She learned names, patterns, neighborhoods. She remembered which corners drew patrols and which judges smiled for cameras. Her file drawers were orderly, her case notes relentless, her cross examinations cool as winter. The respect she won in court never followed her onto the street. In squad rooms and parking lots, whispers trailed behind her like exhaust. Troublemaker, agitator, too curious for her own safety. She's the daughter of Samuel Carter, a black detective accused of taking dirty money and found dead before he could clear himself. Millfield Police Department's record reads like a scar. Complaints of excessive force, questionable stops, a disproportionate number of minority arrests. The courthouse across from the shuttered mill processes lives with conveyor belt efficiency. Arraign, deal, dispose. For months, Naomi has mapped arrest logs, body cam gaps, and matching narratives that never quite change. Her binder tabs form a color-coded atlas of abuse. She sees the same surnames on incident reports, the same officers in the margins, the same odor of marijuana, sentence copy-pasted into reports like a charm against scrutiny. Captain Marcus Hale commands Millfield like a parade ground. At 51, silver threaded through close-cropped hair, he wears authority like a fitted coat. The press adores him. Food drives, mentorship circles, a photogenic cleanup of blighted blocks. He's credited with slashing crime by 30%, numbers splashed across banners and evening news crawls. Behind closed doors, Hale runs the department with hard edges and unblinking expectations. Loyalty isn't requested, it's audited. Assignments shift overnight for anyone who asks the wrong question. Careers stall on a word. Even internal affairs seems to lose steam whenever its flashlights drift too near the captain's shadow. Investigations that creep toward Hale's inner circle have a way of evaporating, paperwork curling like burned edges. 3 separate probes into Samuel Carter's death stalled when they touched the captain's orbit. At the funeral, Naomi caught him alone near the church steps. For a breath, his public sympathy slipped, and something colder surfaced. "Your father took the easy exit," Hale murmured, voice pitched for her ears only. "Smart choice." The words lodged under Naomi's skin and never left. They turned into late nights at the kitchen table, into spreadsheets, into habits like always keeping her phone charged and a second recorder hidden under the dash. Naomi guides her dented Civic along Millfield's east side, a path she uses to dodge the usual checkpoints. Rain hammers the windshield in steady sheets while she mentally flips through tomorrow's docket. Arraignments, a suppression motion, a juvenile case at 9. Her phone buzzes. A text from Lena. "Still on for dinner Sunday?" Naomi smiles despite herself, thumbs a quick yes at the next red light, and eases forward. Potholes bloom with water, reflecting neon into fractured puddles. The wipers groan. The clock ticks past habit. Routine wraps around her like a familiar coat, and then, in a wash of blue and red, the fabric snags and tears. Patrol lights explode across her rear view, staining the cabin blue and red. Naomi's stomach tightens as she pulls to the curb, already recognizing the silhouette behind the wheel. Hale steps out with deliberate economy, rain purling off his hat brim. "License and registration, Miss Carter," he says, professionally polite, history concealed beneath lacquer. "What's the reason for the stop, Captain?" Naomi asks, voice calm by training, not by pulse. "Taillights out," he answers, peering past her shoulder at the empty back seat. She glances at the mirror. Both lights were fine leaving the office. Another vehicle idles without siren across the intersection, quiet as a held breath. Through rain-streaked glass, she spots a second cruiser rolling up without lights. An officer drifts toward her trunk, radio at his shoulder, eyes hooded. Across the street, an unmarked sedan noses to a stop. 3 cars for a bulb? "Step out of the vehicle, please," Hale says, smile practiced, eyes unlit. Naomi keeps her hands visible, breath measured. "Am I being detained?" "Routine safety check," he replies, palm resting near his weapon as if from habit. "Unless there's something you haven't told me." Every small movement becomes choreography. The door latch, the seat belt, the rain rushing in like a crowd when she finally stands. Naomi clocks the angles. No traffic cameras at this corner. Her phone is recording audio, but audio won't capture sleight of hand at the trunk. The downpour keeps neighbors indoors. Even the stray dog that haunts the deli awning is gone. The second officer keeps circling toward the Civic's rear, speaking low into his mic, fingers tapping the same jacket pocket. Hale's patience thins. "Miss Carter, step away from the vehicle now, or we'll consider noncompliance." She moves where he directs, the rain soaking her blazer, hair plastered to her temples. Whatever they planned, it's already rolling downhill. Momentum, she thinks grimly, is a kind of weapon. The rain lifts from steady to punishing. Hale positions himself to block her view of his car and her own, framing the scene for whoever might be watching later. "I'm going to search your vehicle," he declares, tone making it sound like routine paperwork. "You don't have probable cause," Naomi replies, defaulting to muscle memory. "I do not consent." Hale doesn't blink. "I detected the odor of marijuana when you rolled the window down. That's probable cause." Across the street, a shadowed figure lifts a phone, screen flaring, then dims it again. For an instant, Naomi feels relief, then dread. An edit can erase truth as rain scrubs chalk. "That's impossible," Naomi says, voice rising over the storm. "There is no marijuana in my car, and you know it." Hale ignores her and flicks 2 fingers toward the second officer. Benton moves to the trunk. Naomi steps to follow, but Hale shifts, a wall wrapped in a uniform. "Stay put, Miss Carter." Metal clicks. The trunk lifts. Rain masks small movements as Benton slips a hand inside his jacket and draws out a clear plastic bag. His body becomes a shield while he slides the package beneath the carpet lining. "Captain," he calls, pitching his voice to Carrie, "you'll want to see this." Hale's mouth twitches before discipline snaps it flat. "Keep eyes on her," he tells the third officer, then strides toward the trunk. Naomi stretches to see around shoulders in rain, panic climbing like a cold ladder. "What are you doing? You can't plant evidence," she shouts, letting the words carry for any recording. Officer Ruiz shifts, unease leaking through his posture. For a heartbeat, their gazes lock, and shame flickers in his. The night smells of wet asphalt and something sour. Naomi files every detail, hand placements, timing, angles, because memory might be the only witness that doesn't change its story afterward. "Captain," Ruiz asks, uncertain, "protocol on personal effects?" Hale doesn't answer yet. He angles his body so Naomi can't catch the trunk's interior. "Miss Carter," he says loudly, "I'm advising you to remain still while we conduct a lawful search." "Lawful requires cause," she fires back. "You have none." I already stated the cause. Rain hammers the lid. A metal drum above Benton's hands. Naomi inhales, memorizing cadence and phrasing, piecing together a future transcript in her head. Across the street, the watcher's phone glows again, then disappears into darkness as if swallowed by the storm. Lightning answers with a jagged white grin. Captain, Benton calls, voice pitched to travel, you're going to want to look at this. Hale straightens, performs surprise, then reaches into the trunk and lifts a sealed bag of white powder. 3 kilos, he says for the invisible audience, professionally wrapped. Street value north of 150,000. Naomi's blood goes glacial. That is not mine, she says, forcing each word to stand up. You just put that there. Hale's expression shifts to dignified disappointment. A public defender, of all people, he intones. Cuff her, he tells Benton without looking away. The metal bites her wrists a beat later, cold enough to feel like purpose. This is a frame, Naomi shouts over the rain, aiming her voice at the dark storefronts and any camera hidden there. Hale leans in close enough that she can smell aftershave beneath wet wool. Miss Carter, you have a very serious problem, he says, eyes bright with victory. Would you like to explain the merchandise? Ruiz looks away, jaw tight, then glances back at Naomi, as if the truth might ask him for help, and he's not sure how to answer. Benton tightens the cuffs. Possession with intent, he recites, almost bored. Naomi stares past them at the Civic's open trunk, trying to memorize the lie's exact shape. Keep an eye on her, Hale repeats, voice steady, as he steps back from the trunk and signals the unmarked car. Naomi strains against the cuffs, not to run, but to witness. Angles, distances, the choreography of planted evidence. She hears the rustle of an evidence bag unspooling, the practiced cadence of inventorying contraband. What are you doing? She calls. You can't fabricate probable cause. Rainwater snakes down her collarbone and chills her spine. Reese hovers, conflicted and silent, the badge on his chest reflecting the cruiser's strobe like a blinking metronome. Every movement, Naomi thinks, is a choice. Some choices get written down, others get people disappeared in paperwork. Hale closes the space between them until only rain fits. Your old man couldn't prove a thing either, he whispers, so softly the storm almost steals it. Look where that got him. Naomi's teeth clench until her jaw aches. I want my phone call, she says loudly. I want my lawyer for questioning. Of course, Hale answers in his press conference voice. You'll enjoy every constitutional courtesy. Ruiz retrieves her purse from the front seat, avoiding her eyes. Log it at the station, Hale instructs. Benton shoves Naomi toward the cruiser. Her shoulder slams the metal frame. Pain blooms hot and blooming, but she doesn't give him a sound. Through the rain-blurred window, Naomi watches Hale on his phone, posture triumphant, voice clipped and efficient. She knows the choreography. First the leak, then the headline, then the photos of seized kilos stacked like trophies. Within hours, Millfield will feast on it. Captain Hale nabs corrupt public defender. Her work, her father's name, months of careful notes, stolen with a single night's script. As the cruiser rolls, she stares at the storefront where the watcher stood. The doorway is empty now, rain rinsing the sidewalk clean. Silence isn't neutral, she thinks, it's an alibi, and tonight it belongs to the storm. She memorizes the route they take. The Millfield Daily Ledger refreshes at 6:17 a.m. Public defender arrested on drug charges. By sunrise, Naomi's booking photo sits above the fold on local sites, her exhausted face framed by fluorescent shadows under a headline that has already judged her. The story sketches a neat arc: stop, search, seizure, arrest, leaving out the inconvenient weather and the extra cars. Comments bloom like mold. Anonymous avatars cheer the bust, predict a bigger ring, question every case she's ever touched. A few friends call, then stop when calls go unanswered. Naomi's name becomes a topic rather than a person. The algorithm doesn't care that a lie learned to walk overnight. In county lockup, the common room television fuzzes, then clears to Hale at a podium. Naomi stands in yesterday's rain-sodden clothes while inmates gather, some curious, some angry, a few quietly sympathetic. It's always troubling when a guardian of justice betrays that trust, Hale tells the microphones, wearing sorrow like a tie. Miss Carter's position makes this particularly disappointing. A reporter asks whether Naomi had been investigating misconduct. Hale's reply is polished. She's made numerous unsubstantiated allegations. This arrest clarifies her motivations. The camera cuts to District Attorney Meredith Pierce, who announces Naomi's suspension and reassignment of her cases. Files scatter in Naomi's head, names untethering, futures pushed back to wolves. Naomi's phone and laptop are listed as evidence, boxed with her purse, keys, and the narrative Hale prefers. Everything she compiled on the department now sits under his lock and chain. On the screen, Hale shakes hands with Judge Harold Grady, who will handle Naomi's arraignment. The camera lingers, catching a gleam of mutual respect that feels like choreography. Effective immediately, Pierce adds, her clients will be reassigned. Naomi thinks of faces. Teenagers, grandmothers, a forklift driver who didn't have bus fare the day of court. They will meet strangers now. The system is a maze where the walls move, and tonight the floor tilts toward the captain. On the common room couch, a young inmate leans over. They pulled the same trick on my brother, she whispers. Found meth he never touched. He's still upstate weather replaces the broadcast, and two guards stride in. Carter, arraignment in an hour. Naomi squares her shoulders. She can feel the machinery grinding into place around her. Steel doors, stamped forms, signatures that look like verdicts. The institution has a smell. Disinfectant, old paint, tired hope. They think they've taken everything, she reminds herself, but they've miscounted. They haven't accounted for what doesn't live on a seized device or inside a file cabinet. Steel doors slam, a sound that lands in the bones. They walk Naomi down to cell block D. Orange jumpsuit, slip-on shoes, the small violences of standardization. Guards who once nodded at her in hallways study their clipboards instead. Her cell assignment is calculated. She's placed with Shonda Willis, a former nurse picked up 3 months ago for possession. Naomi has seen Shonda's name before, on a file that didn't add up. Didn't think I'd see you on this side, Shonda says after lights out, voice low. Darkness makes truth braver. I didn't do this, Naomi whispers. Most of us didn't, Shonda replies. That's not the game they're playing. Shonda talks in the dark. Johnson last year, Martinez the spring before. Always the same choreography. A stop, a claim about smell, a mysterious bag, a charge sheet thick enough to crush protest. Every one of them had challenged police power somehow, filed a complaint, testified, embarrassed an officer on cross. Naomi listens, cataloging names against her own research. 7 people in 3 years, Shonda says, maybe more. Cases with Hale's fingerprints or those of his tight circle. Why hasn't anyone fought back? Naomi asks. From in here? With what? Shonda laughs without humor. Evidence disappears, witnesses revise, public defenders drown in caseloads, and now they've got you too. Midnight count floods the cell with hard white beams. The lights carve Naomi's face out of the dark and then withdraw. Boots echo down the tier. Doors thunk. Silence returns like a held breath. They're watching you extra close, Shonda murmurs. You scare them? Naomi stares at the ceiling, tracing cracks like a map of decisions. My father was on Hale 8 years ago, she whispers. They found drugs in his locker, said he broke, called it suicide. You don't buy it. Never did. You kept backups? Naomi turns on her side. Better. I planned for this. I recorded everything I could. Visitation day brings a new face. Officer Nathan Cole, recent transfer from Chicago PD, sits behind glass in the no-contact booth. Naomi lifts the handset without greeting. I don't know you, she says flatly. I know you, he replies. Your cases. Your father. She studies him, uniform crisp, eyes tired. You work for Hale. I work for the public, Cole answers, glancing toward the camera in the corner. 3 months here, and the math doesn't add up. Evidence logs that don't balance. missing body cam files, officers with lifestyles their paychecks can't carry. He lowers his voice. Hale runs this place like a racket. Why are you here? Naomi asks. I'm poisoned right now. Cole holds her gaze. I checked your record. 15 misconduct complaints in 3 years. Documented, precise, all dismissed. That's not luck. He leans closer. Chicago, Internal Affairs asked me to keep eyes open. There's a multi jurisdictional case forming. Your arrest accelerated it. The guard taps the glass, a reminder that time is currency. Naomi keeps her voice flat. I don't believe you. Softer, under the clatter. Prove it. Cole slides a business card onto the ledge. My personal number. Memorize it, he stands. Think about a plea, he says louder, for the room's benefit. Did you know my father? Naomi asks as he turns. By reputation, Cole says. Highest conviction integrity rate in the unit. Nobody who knew him believed he was dirty. The guard calls time. Cole raises his voice for show. A deal might save you years, Carter. He walks away without looking back. Naomi palms the card, thumb rubbing the raised print she can't see. Trust is a fragile currency, but it is still a currency. This could be help or bait. Either way, it is a line to the outside world, and lines matter when walls are all you have. Courtroom 3 looks different from the defense table when your own wrists are chained. The gallery is packed. Colleagues, former clients, press, and a few strangers hungry for spectacle. Lena sits in the front row, notebook open, face set. Judge Harold Grady enters, golf tan already peeking from the collar of his robe. Naomi remembers straightforward cases he bent into losses with a polite frown. Fluorescents hum. The clank of her shackles is louder than her breath. She studies the judge's eyes and tries to read which way the wind is already blowing. In Millfield, weather comes from the club, not the coast. Bail hearing for case number 2025, CR 1701, State versus Carter, the clerk intones. Grady barely glances at her. Her court-appointed attorney, Price, a former colleague with a permanent look of jet lag, shifts to his feet. Your Honor, Miss Carter has deep community ties, zero criminal history, and is an officer of the court. We request reasonable bail. District Attorney Pierce approaches like she's crossing a stage. 3 kilograms of cocaine, Your Honor. Street value over 150,000. The betrayal is particularly grievous given her role. Price counters that Naomi maintains the evidence was planted in retaliation for her inquiries into police corruption. Her phones and laptop contain the proof, Price presses. We move for an independent forensic review. Pierce slides in. Those devices are being processed as evidence of distribution. They include privileged client files and must be handled with care. Grady nods, sympathetic without courage. Motion denied. Price breathes, then tries again with release conditions. Naomi watches the chessboard while pretending not to. Who signals to whom? Who checks a phone? Whose posture changes on cue? Procedures that should take weeks compress into minutes. The speed feels like a plan growing legs. To others, it looks like efficiency. To Naomi, it looks like sealing a jar with her inside. Bail is set at $1 million, Grady says, as if naming the weather. A shock moves through the gallery. Your Honor, Price protests. That's punitive for a first offense. Pierce steps into the space. Given Miss Carter's legal knowledge and access to criminal elements through her work, the risk of flight is substantial. Grady bangs the gavel. Next case. As the deputies take Naomi by the elbows, she catches Lena's eye. A small nod passes between them. Begin. Grady's phone buzzes under the bench. A text will arrive from Hale before he finishes his coffee. Thanks. Dinner at the club Saturday? The public defender's office hums like a hive kicked at noon. Evidence tape seals Naomi's desk. Boxes swallow her files. Lena flashes her press badge at the receptionist. I'm doing a piece on the backlog since my sister's suspension, she explains, pen poised. While interviewing Naomi's supervisor, she notices Detective Adrian Heller hovering near the records room, gaze slippery. Later, alone in Naomi's office, Lena photographs the space and which folders look rifled. She slides a USB into the desktop tower and uses a password they grew up sharing. The drive churns and shows an empty horizon, wiped clean, deliberate, chilling. Outside, Heller watches from an unmarked sedan as Lena leaves. His phone vibrates with Hale's name. They're combing her office now, Heller reports, and the sister's inside. Did you get everything? Hale asks. All physical files on Johnston and Willis and Lopez, the computers scrubbed cloud storage, email? Heller hesitates. No sign of backups. She's not that careless, Hale snaps. Find it. Heller hangs up and stares through the rain. 18 years in, with a pension 3 away, and the line crept further each season. Samuel Carter's case was a crossing. He stayed quiet. He's been quiet ever since. Tonight, the quiet feels heavier. Heller starts the engine, then lets it idle. He doesn't follow Lena. Instead, he pulls a cheap phone from the glove box, the kind paid for in cash. He scrolls to a number he entered yesterday. Cole. It isn't a question of if he'll flip, he thinks, but whether he'll do it soon enough to matter. A gust of rain rattles the windshield, then another. On the sidewalk, Lena moves with Naomi's same stubborn stride. Heller watches her disappear into traffic and, for the first time in years, feels the tug of a conscience trying to surface again. He exhales, long and shaky. There's a warehouse by the old riverfront, Shonda whispers over lunch trays. Unit 17, Riverside Storage. Hale meets his people there twice a month. Naomi memorizes it. How do you know? My ex worked security until they jammed him up too. He said shipments moved at night, expensive cars arriving, leaving lighter. Shonda pushes peas around her plate. Companies on the paperwork read Blue Harbor Holdings. On paper, they import furniture. Naomi's pulse ticks faster. Blue Harbor. The name lives in her father's notes like a splinter. She can see the shorthand in his margins, the arrows connecting seizure dates to phantom inventory. Your dad was closing in, Shonda says, dropping her voice as a guard passes. Hale's crew doesn't stage with fake bricks. The cocaine is real, taken off actual dealers, then rerouted. They seize, repackage, and sell it back into the city through their own channels. Naomi exhales slowly. That's RICO territory. Shonda nods, and anyone who notices becomes a defendant. The cafeteria buzz swells and thins like a tide. Naomi sets her fork down. Her father's notes were a map. Hale thinks he burned it. He doesn't know the map was copied, memorized, rewritten in a dozen small places a search warrant won't find. My bail hearing's tomorrow, Shonda says. If I make it out, don't, Naomi cuts in. If they think you tipped me, they'll come for you or your ex. Stay away from Riverside Storage. Stay away from Blue Harbor. A shadow falls across their table. Officer Benton is grinning. Carter, he says, your lawyer is here. Naomi stands, schooling her face to neutral. A camera blinks red in the corner, the lens an unblinking eye. Trays clatter. Someone laughs too loudly at another table. You'll be fine, Shonda says without conviction. I will, Naomi answers, because sometimes saying a thing carves a shape for courage to stand inside. In the attorney room, Price looks wrung out. They expedited everything, he says. Trial is set for next Monday. Naomi blinks. That's impossible. Discovery alone. Judge Grady fast-tracked. DA's dangling a deal. 5 years if you plead. Naomi leans in. Get a message to my sister. Tell her Blue Harbor Holdings, Unit 17. She'll know Price hesitates. They're monitoring my calls to family. Then tell her I said to check Dad's fishing spot. He nods, confused but willing. One more thing. Request the booking inventory of my personal effects. Why? I want to be sure everything I wore got logged. She keeps her face blank for the camera. Price doesn't know, and Naomi won't say, that the vintage watch on her wrist holds a micro SD card tucked beneath its backplate. Months of encrypted audio and notes live there, disguised as timekeeping. Hale took her phone and laptop, but not the watch, because the watch looked like sentiment rather than storage. Insurance doesn't have to be flashy, Naomi thinks. It just has to exist where arrogance won't look. She pictures Lena's face when she hears the clue. Fishing spot. Their father taught them to hide small truths in ordinary places, inside a tackle box, under a false bottom, behind a picture frame that never quite sits level. Lena paces her apartment, phone wedged at her ear. They're pushing her to trial in less than a week, she says. No discovery, no prep. It's absurd. On the other end, Price sounds beaten. Grady is signing whatever Pierce asks. They've built a chute. Did she leave any message? A pause. She said, check Dad's fishing spot, and something about Blue Harbor Holdings, Unit 17. Mean anything? Lena stops moving. Yes, thank you. She ends the call, crosses to her closet, and drags out their father's old tackle box, battered metal nicked by years and river stones. Her hands shake, and then steady. Lena slips the phone into her pocket and stands very still, listening to the rain against the window like static. If Naomi planned for tonight, there will be layers, breadcrumbs tucked where routine won't notice. She photographs the tackle box before touching it, muscle memory from years on crime scenes. Then she stops. First, she needs a map of Naomi's cases to triangulate Blue Harbor. She grabs her notebook, sketches names, dates, arresting officers. Hale's circle repeats like a watermark. In the center, Unit 17. She breathes, resets, and finally lifts the tackle box. The lures click like teeth. Somewhere across town, a storm gutter coughs. In holding, Naomi asks Price for the booking inventory. He returns with a photocopy, lines blurry. Wallet, keys, phone, purse, he reads. Earrings, necklace. Naomi's pulse steadies when she spots it. Watch, analog, gold. Press for independent review again, she whispers. Start a paper trail that outlives Grady's calendar. Price nods, eyeing the camera. Pierce is still pressing the plea. Let her press, Naomi says. Pressure leaves fingerprints. He tucks the sheet into the folder and squares his shoulders for one more round. I'll file within the hour, he says, voice steadier, as if the act of lawyering could warm him back to life. Back in D Block, Shonda sits cross-legged on her bunk, braiding and unbraiding the same strand. You good? She asks. Define good, Naomi says, offering a smile that doesn't reach her ribs. They speak low, trading puzzle pieces. Shonda describes Alexis arriving late at Riverside Storage, rolling out lighter, shadowed by an unmarked. Twice a month, she says, always after big seizures make the news. Naomi files it beside her father's notes, another dovetail joint catching. The tear quiets. A distant door booms. Naomi thinks of rain on asphalt, of trunks, of hands. Patterns don't lie. People do. Hale's day glides from podium to back office to private messages. On a screen, 3 words. Thanks. Saturday. Club? Grady's reply is a single thumbs up. Hale pockets his phone as Heller steps in with updates. Posture careful. Sister's been at the office, Heller reports. Computers wiped. We box Johnston, Willis, Lopez. Hale's eyes narrow. Backups? No sign. Check again, Hale says softly, which means immediately. After Heller leaves, Hale studies a weather map pinned to cork. Rain all week. Weather's an alibi, if you plan it right. He straightens his tie in the window's faint reflection, practicing the face the evening news prefers. Concerned, resolute, merciful. The public defender's bullpen buzzes with phones and a low-grade panic. Lena moves from desk to desk, asking about reassignment timelines, triage strategies, bottlenecks, covering a story while casing a crime scene. She notices who stops talking when Detective Heller walks by, who only relaxes after he passes. By the file room door, a scrap bin holds torn manila tabs. Johnston, Willis, Lopez. She palms them like relics. Upstairs, she angles for security footage. Power outages during last night's storm, the guard says. Convenient, Lena thinks, then asks for logs. Eyebrows go up. Requests become records. Records become leverage later? In Naomi's office, the desktop yields nothing but a polished emptiness. Lena photographs the dust prints where boxes sat, the faint scuff where a drawer was forced. She kneels checking baseboards and the underside of the chair. A gum wrapper rattles in the vent, otherwise silence. She tries the bookshelf, running fingers along spines until one sticks. Loose glue. Behind it, only wallboard. Naomi is neater than a spy, Lena thinks. She hides in plain sight. The tackle box waits at home like a sealed mouth, promising either treasure or quiet. She locks the door behind her, feeling watched by a building that knows how to keep its own secrets. Heller's unmarked sedan smells like old coffee and department soap. He parks 2 blocks away to make his call. We got everything, he tells Hale, choosing careful verbs. Physicals pulled. Desk scrubbed, cloud copies, Hale asks. No trace, Heller says, lying by omission. He hasn't checked Naomi's home network. No warrant yet. Then widen your net, Hale replies, voice syrup over knives. Friends. Family. The call ends. Heller stares at the rain silvering his windshield and wonders when routine turned into conspiracy and when he stopped noticing. He writes Blue Harbor on a memo pad, then draws a box around it, as if ink could fence in a storm. The burner phone is cheap, the plastic soft around the edges. Heller scrolls to COLE, thumb hovering. He imagines subpoenas, grand juries, retirement that isn't haunted. He imagines, too, Hale's smile when he smells disloyalty. The car creaks in the rain. Heller dials anyway. The call routes to voicemail. He doesn't leave a message, no recordings he can't predict. Instead, he texts one line, need to talk, Blue Harbor. He deletes the thread, then deletes the delete, and sits with the ghost of it anyway. Across the street, a laundromat door opens and shuts. Ordinary life continues, indifferent to treason and courage alike. Lena drives the east side in loops that feel like childhood hours when their father worked nights. Riverside storage looks asleep, rows of corrugated doors, puddles full of sky. She parks beyond the cameras and watches. A forklift hums somewhere inside, then stops. A black SUV idles, headlights dim to parking lights. A man in a hood signs a clipboard, far too casual for rain. Unit 17 remains dark, a blank tooth in a metal grin. Lena writes plates, times, directions of travel. Later, she'll match them to seizure dates and Hale's pressers. On her seat, the tackle box rides shotgun, metal cold as a kept promise. Back in her kitchen, shoes off, Lena spreads photos and notes across the table. She threads together seizure pressers with cited activity at Riverside, arresting officers with Blue Harbor shell filings, Naomi's motions with judges' hurried denials. The pattern is ugly and clean, supply routed through authority, laundered by procedure, blessed by convenience. She marks names that repeat, then double marks the ones that smile too easily on camera. When the map satisfies her, she texts a single word to herself, insurance, then circles the tackle box on a new page. Outside, sirens slide past like distant wails. The apartment smells like coffee and rain and work. Naomi sleeps in flashes, dreams shattering at every door slam. Morning count arrives with steel rhythm. You look worse, Shonda says, which here counts as affection. Price will move for discovery again, Naomi answers. He'll be denied again, Shonda says. Then denial becomes part of the record, Naomi replies. A guard delivers a message slip. Attorney visit approved, 2 p.m. Naomi folds it into a square and tucks it under her mattress. It isn't the approval that matters, it's that the system wrote it down. Writing can't help itself, it leaves tracks. She breathes with the tears hum, steadying, counting heartbeats into something that feels like resolve. Price returns with a folder, face storm gray. Trial date stands, he says. Pierce wants your plea on record tomorrow. Naomi keeps her breathing even. Decline, counter with a motion to compel body cam retention logs for the last 6 months. They'll claim privilege, Price warns. Let them. The denial is useful. He flips pages. Anything else? Yes, the inventory list. Make a sealed copy with a clerk stamp. He studies her. You're building for appeal. I'm building for daylight, Naomi says. Appeal is a kind of weather. Price blinks, then almost smiles. Okay, daylight it is. He tucks the folder under his arm and goes. The watch sits warm on her wrist, its face nicked by door frames and hurried mornings. Naomi turns it toward the barred window, catching a line of light. A lesson from a detective's daughter. Move like you have nothing to hide. Later, in the attorney booth, she lifts her cuff to scratch her temple, palming the backplate loose for a heartbeat before snapping it home. The micro SD stays put, but the motion proves that she still can. Price doesn't notice, which is the point. Hale wouldn't either. Naomi pictures Lena's hands, steady, turning old metal, the way their father taught them to open stubborn things. Lena dries her hands, then lays out tools, tiny screwdriver, tweezers, an old towel to muffle sound. She photographs the tackle box's contents piece by piece, storing images to a clean card. Mid-layer, she finds what she expected, a false bottom worked from cardboard and tape, stained by river water. Underneath lies a zip bag, dated in Samuel's looping block letters. She swallows. It feels like he's here, patient as ever, letting his daughters solve the riddle. She checks the windows again, then sits cross-legged on the rug, the storm a low drumline outside. The apartment's heat clicks on and off, beating time while her heartbeat counts down. Inside the bag sits a USB drive wrapped in wax paper, the kind Samuel used for hooks he didn't want rusted. Lena holds it in her palm, feeling its ridiculous lightness. This stone of memory could tilt a whole street. She plugs it into a laptop kept offline for work like this. The drive blinks once, then waits. A folder opens. Audio, logs, scans. She doesn't play anything yet. First, she photographs the index, notes timestamp formats, writes checksum hashes by hand. Only then does she whisper, "Okay, Dad," and double-click the first file. Outside, the rain keeps time, drumming the city toward morning and whatever comes next. Lena's hands tremble as she slots the drive into her offline laptop. A password prompt blooms. She tries their father's badge number. Denied. Their mother's birthday. No. She exhales, types read in all caps, a word Samuel loved, and the screen unlocks. Folders line up like soldiers. Audio, logs, stills, ledgers, hundreds of files, each meticulously tagged by date and location. Surveillance shots of parking lots and warehouses. Bank ledgers tied to shell firms. Witness statements and sworn transcripts. A breadcrumb maze that looks like a road map. Lena scrolls until one label snags breath. Blue Harbor. Her pulse kicks. Rain ticks the window like a metronome of urgency. The Blue Harbor folder opens into sublayers. Property deeds, rental contracts, shipping manifests, and customs declarations that don't quite rhyme. One PDF traces a warehouse unit leased by a shell company with accounts in the Caymans. The manifests say furniture, but the weight distributions read like narcotics, not nightstands. The doorbell jolts her. She yanks the drive, pockets it, and moves to the peephole. A delivery guy in a damp cap holds a package and a stylus. "Miss Carter?" he asks. Lena cracks the chain, signs with a scribble, and accepts the box. Her shoulders won't unclench. She counts to 5 before closing the door. Nothing screams trap. Brown paper, generic label, no return address. Inside sits a burner phone and a note in Naomi's angular handwriting. Activate only if it's bad. One number preset. Trust nobody else. Lena crosses to the window and parts the blinds. Across the street, a dark sedan idles, two silhouettes facing forward, not even pretending they aren't watching. She breathes through the spike of fear, sets the burner on the counter, and opens her regular phone to text her editor, taking emergency family leave. Call tomorrow. Then she dials the one person who will come without flinching. Serena Park, former FBI forensic analyst. "It's happening," Lena says. "I need you." "Where?" Serena asks. "Dad's cabin," Lena replies. "Come alone. Eyes are on me." She grabs a go bag, tucks the USB into her pocket, and heads for the stairwell instead of the elevator. The sedan doesn't move as she exits, only the passenger turns his head. At a red light, she circles twice, then cuts through a side street, past a bakery and a closed barber shop. Her heartbeat settles into a workable rhythm. The tires hum like quiet encouragement. 20 miles out, the city peels away into scrub and pine. Samuel Carter's fishing cabin waits under trees that remember better summers. Tonight it becomes a war room. The cabin squats above a creek, its porch sagging, its table scarred by filleting knives and homework. Samuel bought it for cheap weekends and early casts. Now it hosts a triage. Lena spreads files in tidy grids while Serena studies bank records with a hunter's focus. Alex Rios arrives, Lena's college friend turned security engineer, lugging routers, a Faraday pouch, and two Pelican cases. These manifests are off, Serena murmurs, tapping weights and dimensions. They say sofas. The math screams bricks. Alex whistles. Your dad was using GPS stamps too. He was building a RICO tree until Hale smeared him and pushed him towards suicide, Lena says, jaw tight. Or staged it, Serena answers. Serena lifts a page. Samuel scheduled a meeting with a federal prosecutor the day he died. He never made it, Alex's laptop chimes. I'm into Riverside Storage's cameras, he says. 4 angles: gate, dock, floor, office, Unit 17's in frame. They scrub through hours of nothing, moving shadows, rain bursts, a raccoon's reflective eyes, until 2:17 a.m. Three cruisers nose through the gate. Captain Hale steps out first, followed by Benton and two others Lena doesn't know. Keys flash, the door rolls up. They carry duffels inside, heavy by the way their shoulders roll. Those aren't logged evidence bags, Serena notes. No seals. No chain of custody numbers. Sloppy or arrogant. Running faces, Alex says, fingers flicking. Got Benton. The second unknown resolves to Patrolman Kincaid. He pauses. And the third, oh hell, Lieutenant Warren Voss. Internal Affairs. Lena's stomach dips. On screen, the men reemerge. 30 minutes later, without the duffels. Hale hands out envelopes like party favors. Cash, Serena whispers. Payouts or silence. Lena swallows. Can we use this? Not as is, Serena answers. Illegally obtained and no confirmed integrity, but it tells us exactly where to hunt for admissible proof. Alex rewinds to the gate camera, marks license plates, time stamps, and the badge of a guard with eyes too flat for curiosity. The burner phone vibrates on the table, its tone small and urgent. Lena checks the preset number, Nathan Cole. She answers. I've got something, Cole says without greeting. Hale's moving a major shipment tomorrow night. 5 mil wholesale. Biggest yet your source? Lena asks. Heller. He wants immunity and says he'll wear a wire. But Hale's accelerating because of you and Naomi. Monday's trial gives him cover. Lena pinches the bridge of her nose. We need time. You won't get it, Cole says. This is time to lock your sister down for years while the product flows. If you're going to crack it, you have 24 hours to make a dent. Lena parks outside the Millfield Daily Ledger, the newsroom where she's chased potholes and payroll scandals for 6 years. She needs her press badge to pull sealed filings and clerk logs. Before she can kill the engine, a black SUV glides alongside. The window drops. Captain Hale's profile fills the gap, rain jeweling his lashes like punctuation marks. Miss Carter, he says, conversational velvet. Beautiful day, she forces even breath. Captain Hale, small town. Not coincidence, he replies, stepping out. Walk? They cross to a pocket park. The bench is wet. The air smells like magnolia and threat. Hale's smile never touches his eyes. Your sister is in real trouble. Because you planted contraband in her car, Lena answers. Hale laughs lightly. Allegations without proof. A Carter family hobby. His warmth drains. I know about the cabin. Your late night powwows with the ex-Fed and the IT friend. The storage feeds you shouldn't have Lena's stomach goes cold. You're sloppy with your tales, he adds. Or maybe you wanted me to know. He leans in. The DA could show mercy if certain questions disappeared. Convince Naomi to plead. 5 down, parole sooner. You drop the story. Everyone breathes easier. Lena holds his gaze. And if I don't? Hale's voice flattens. Prisons are clumsy places. Accidents multiply. A jogger appears. Hale's smile reattaches. Hale peels off, already on his phone. Lena's hands are unsteady enough that her keys slip to the curb. Inside her car, an envelope waits on the passenger seat that wasn't there before. The doors were locked. She tears it open anyway. A single glossy photo. Lena stepping into the cabin. Time stamped last night. Across the bottom, a message scrawled in block letters. We're watching. Her throat clicks. She starts the engine and drives not to the newsroom but straight back to the woods, the storm in her chest moving with her. If Hale knows the cabin, the clock is louder than she thought. They'll need a bigger plan. We need to find the others, Lena says, spilling into the cabin like a weather alert. Serena looks up from spreadsheets. What others? Everyone Hale framed. Shonda told Naomi there were at least 7 in 3 years. Lena empties a file box onto the table, charging docs, arraignment notes, sentencing grids. We need a pattern and living witnesses. Alex drags a laptop closer, cross-referencing names and arresting officers. Marcus Johnson, he says, community organizer. Busted last year. Possession with intent. Elena Martinez. Serena adds, teacher who filed an excessive force complaint when her brother left a cell with stitches. All minorities, Lena murmurs, all pushed into pleas by calendar warfare, and bail set like ransom. They pull case after case, watching the same steps repeat. A traffic stop at night, a smell invented from thin air, a bag appearing where it hadn't been, bail high enough to drown a life, hearings crammed together like boxcars, a deal that looks like mercy and is really a trap. By midnight, 5 names glow on Serena's list, besides Naomi and Shonda. Cole calls back. Heller confirmed the warehouse drop. Tomorrow, 11 p.m. Product moves to street by Sunday night. Why the speed? Lena asks. He's spooked, Cole says. You're digging. Naomi's prep. He wants cash and leverage before jurors even sit. The word jurors feels theoretical when judges do the heavy lifting. We need the victims, Lena says. Testimony builds a story beyond Naomi. Too dangerous, Cole counters. Hale is watching them, and they're cousins, he inhales. There's more! The dash cam on Naomi's stop is surgically edited, 8 minutes gone right when Benton's at the trunk. Can you prove tampering? Serena asks. Not without the original on the department server, Cole says. Serena swivels her screen. Samuel tracked cash drops, 50,000 quarterly, into an offshore account tied to an alias Hale uses. 9 years straight, Lena's voice drops. Right after Dad started shadowing him. There's something else, Serena says. 5 days before Samuel died, he mailed a packet to a Chicago AUSA. No receipt? Lena asks. No case label. Nothing in public dockets? Serena says. Alex looks up, face drawn. 72 hours until Naomi's trial. 24 until Hale's shipment. We need a move that isn't polite. Lena nods. First, I'll secure a jail visit. It's our last chance to align before Monday. The visitation room's hum becomes cover when Lena and Naomi sit with glass between them. Hale threatened me, Lena whispers, lips barely moving. He knows about the cabin, about you, about everything. Naomi's eyes remain courtroom neutral. Grady is fast-tracking every denial. Price can barely keep up. Lena's smile is the kind that isn't. We found Dad's files, warehouse, offshore accounts, all of it. You've been talking to Cole, Naomi says, worry threading her voice. Be careful. We still don't know how deep Hale's roots reach. Heller is cooperating, Lena adds. Wire, tomorrow. Naomi leans forward, eyes like flint. Listen. My watch, the one Dad gave me. Property inventory shows it logged. There's a micro SD card tucked into the sizing slot. Hale doesn't know. That card has 6 months of recordings and images. They're mirrored to a secure server. Password is the date of Dad's death, reversed. A guard approaches. 2 minutes, he says. Lena nods. What about your phone? Laptop? Decoys? Naomi says. The spine of the case lives elsewhere. We're running out of runway, Lena whispers. Trial Monday. Shipment tomorrow. That's the point, Naomi answers. He's clearing the board before moving product. As Lena stands, Detective Heller walks in ostensibly to see another inmate. He drifts past their table and a folded scrap flutters from his palm to the floor at Naomi's feet. After Lena leaves, Naomi opens it in the bathroom. Hale has eyes in Chicago, FBI. Cole is solid. Watch Voss. Internal affairs compromised. 48 hours until transfer to state. Guards on his payroll there. The word transfer burns. State prison is a labyrinth designed to lose people. Less than 2 days. The shipment hits tomorrow. The trial machine rolls Monday. The window for daylight is pinched to a slit. Outside, Lena finds her tires sagging on their rims. A note is taped to the windshield in block print. Last chance. Walk away. She calls a ride share. And budgets risk. Sunday morning dawns gray. 36 hours to trial. 14 until Riverside. Back at the cabin, Alex hunches over a tablet. We need the watch, he says. Without it, we're guessing. Serena nods. Without hard proof, everything is circumstantial. The burner rings. Cole again. Hale called all hands for tonight. I'm tagged for prisoner transport at 6 a.m. They're moving Naomi early. That's not protocol, Lena says. Trial is at 9. High-risk defendant, allegedly, Cole answers. At state, she disappears into red tape and hallway 4. The line dies. Serena sets her jaw. We move now. Lena, have Price request Naomi's personal effects, insist on inspection. Alex, I want eyes in the sky over Riverside. Alex grins, producing a compact drone. Industrial, infrared, 4-hour flight, quiet as prayer. Serena pulls a worn leather wallet from her bag. Old credentials. I'm on leave, but some doors still open. I'll rattle Chicago. The AUSA Samuel flagged might talk, Lena swallows. What about me? Do what Hale doesn't expect, Serena says. Go back to the scene. The intersection looks ordinary by daylight. Deli awning, cracked crosswalk paint, a gas station with 2 pumps, and a flickering open sign. Inside, the clerk recognizes Lena from op-eds. You're the reporter, the defender's sister. Did you see anything the night of the stop? He hesitates. I don't want trouble. My sister was framed, Lena says softly. Please. He glances at the camera bubble. Our security covers that corner. Manager told cops it was down, but it wasn't. He just didn't want heat. Do backups exist? 30 days. He palms a USB from under the counter. I could lose my job. You won't from me, Lena says, meaning it. She watches in her car, breath held. The footage is crisp despite the rain. Benton at the trunk, hand inside his jacket, the plastic bag sliding under the carpet. No ambiguity. Lena calls Serena. We have proof. Clean and unedited Sunday evening. Price arrives at the jail carrying a stack of forms for Naomi to consider. Hidden among them is a handwritten note. We have gas station video. Heller wired. Lena's scribble dances between legal lines. There's a development, Price says for the microphones. The prosecutor has floated a reduced plea. Naomi understands the code. She signs with care, then slips Price a neat note with the watch's storage bin number and the mirror server's access string. I'll need time to weigh the state's offer, Naomi says, voice pitched to Carrie. After Price exits, Officer Cole arrives with a clipboard, dressed in transport black. Pre-transfer security assessment, he announces. In the low murmur that follows, he whispers, everything's set. Heller's wired. Warehouse 11. Fed's listening, but can't move unless Hale's hands have product. Naomi nods. Lena has the corner video. Cole's brows lift, impressed. We still need tangible links. Your recordings help, but catching him in the act shuts doors. Naomi tilts her wrist. False bottom in my watch case. A tracker, too. I planted a GPS in Hale's cruiser 3 months ago. Every warehouse visit logged. Cole stares. That's how you called Riverside. Naomi nods. I've mapped his late-night drives to every mysterious stop that birthed narcotics. I matched those to Blue Harbor deposits offshore. It's a braid, not a thread. Why not run to the bureau earlier? Cole asks. I tried, Naomi says. Someone kept strangling my leads. Each time I reached out, arrests spiked, and witnesses went quiet. There's a leak in Chicago. I don't have the name, she leans closer. Everything on that card lives on a server only Lena can reach. If I disappear, it sprays to every newsroom and agency in state. Cole exhales. You weren't just defending cases, you were setting teeth. Hale thought he built a perfect trap, Naomi says, voice dry. Turns out he stepped into mine. Monday, 5:30 a.m. She sits on her bunk in transport cuffs. Captain Hale appears in person, flanked by Benton and a stone-faced officer Lena hasn't seen before. Eager for your day in court? Hale asks, smirk installed. Eager for the truth, Naomi replies. Technical glitches happen, he says, like at missing dash cam minutes. Like a gas station feed across the street that didn't glitch, she answers. Like a GPS log of your midnight hobby. His smile thins to spite. He waves the others off and leans in. State prison changes ambitious people, Miss Carter. His breath smells like mint and rot. You killed my father, Naomi says, level as a scale. Samuel got sloppy, Hale replies. Accusations without evidence finish men. His eyes harden. Like father, like daughter. Naomi doesn't blink. Difference is, I brought receipts, dozens, distributed. For the first time, uncertainty stirs in his expression. Bluffs won't save you. This isn't a bluff, Marcus. Her tone turns to tempered steel. This is checkmate. The door buzzes. Price steps in with Serena Park beside him. An assistant U.S. attorney follows. Dana Reyes, badge out. Captain Marcus Hale, Reyes says, lifting a document. This is a federal warrant for your arrest on narcotics trafficking, evidence tampering, and RICO conspiracy. Hale lunges for his sidearm, but Officer Cole is already behind him, weapon raised. Don't, Cole says, voice formal and final. Hale twists. You, he spits. Cole doesn't flinch. I've worked with the federal task force 11 months. Your operation is done. Agents move with quiet choreography. Cuffs click at Hale's wrists. Naomi steps closer, holding her father's watch so Hale can see it. Samuel sent files to Chicago 5 days before he died, she says. They didn't vanish. They multiplied. Hale's face contorts into something small. He looks briefly, like a man learning that gravity applies to him too. The hallway fills with footsteps, radios, a sudden bright future. Outside, the courthouse steps teem with press. U.S. Attorney Colin Marks addresses microphones while cameras angle for Naomi, free for the first time in 6 days. Lena squeezes her hand. Today culminates an 8-year investigation into a police-run trafficking ring, Marks says. Behind him stand Reyes, FBI agents, and a row of boxes labeled with evidence numbers instead of myths. Captain Marcus Hale and 11 Millfield officers face charges including drug distribution, evidence fabrication, witness intimidation, and RICO conspiracy. A cooperating detective assisted in unspooling the network monitor's flick to footage from last night. Hale and crew in cuffs at Riverside, $5 million in cocaine seized, Voss from Internal Affairs among the arrested. A leak inside the Chicago field office has also been identified, Marks continues. That individual is in custody. He pauses. This case began when Detective Samuel Carter noticed irregularities in evidence handling. His daughter, Public Defender Naomi Carter, continued his work at considerable personal risk. The charges against Naomi are dismissed with prejudice. Judge Grady resigns before impeachment can gather a quorum. DA Meredith Pierce faces bar discipline for aiding cover-ups. Detective Heller receives limited immunity. His testimony opens 7 wrongfully secured convictions for review. News vans swarm Riverside and the courthouse. Social feeds finally learn a new trick: how to apologize with edits and reposts instead of more lies. In the precinct lot, a maintenance worker unscrews HALE from a reserved parking sign. Inside, Cole oversees teams cataloging evidence without shortcuts, chain of custody logs fat with signatures. In a courthouse conference room, AUSA Reyes hands Naomi a worn folder. Your father's originals, she says. He was thorough and right. Naomi asks the question that has pitched her sleep for years. Was he murdered? Reyes's face settles. The case is reopened. Off the record, she glances at Serena. The medical examiner who ruled suicide just lost his license for falsifying reports at Hale's request. The room is quiet enough to hear the HVAC. Truth makes different air. 6 months later, Naomi stands at a podium in the renovated Millfield Community Center. Behind her, a bronze plaque reads, "The Samuel Carter Justice Initiative." Today, we're launching legal defense and support for people run over by systemic injustice, she says to a packed hall. No one should face the machinery alone. In the front row, Shonda Willis sits straight backed, now the initiative's outreach coordinator. The department operates under federal monitorship. Cole, now interim chief, has installed civilian review, strict evidence protocols, and body cams with immutable logs. Recruitment from underrepresented communities climbs threefold. Serena leaves the bureau to lead investigations here. Alex Rios builds encrypted lines for whistleblowers who want to whisper loudly. Lena's series, Shield and Deceit, wins a national prize and triggers inquiries in 3 neighboring counties. After the ceremony, Naomi walks among folding chairs and thank yous until the crowd thins. The courthouse no longer feels like a maze. It feels like a building people own. Later, at Oakwood Cemetery, she kneels by Samuel's headstone, now amended to read Detective Samuel Carter, 1963 to 2017, died in the line of duty. She sets his watch among lilies. "We finished it, Dad," she whispers. "Hale will spend the rest of his life answering to numbers instead of men." A breeze lifts the edges of the program in her hand. Peace sits differently than victory. It weighs less. The inquest officially rules Samuel Carter's death a homicide. Further charges stack against Hale, who proclaims innocence to walls that don't vote. Naomi rises and finds Cole waiting a respectful distance away. The interim chief has become an unexpected ally, stubborn about policy in the way good people are stubborn. "He'd be proud," Cole says. Naomi nods. "There's more to fix," she replies. "One rotten tree cut doesn't heal a forest." "But it's a start." She glances at the sky, then back at the stone. "Yes, a start." Her phone buzzes in her pocket. Lena's text. New whistleblower from county sheriff. Another Hale brewing. Justice, Naomi realizes, is a verb. If this story of grit and stubborn hope hit you somewhere tender, we'd love you with us. Subscribe to us for more true feeling tales that pry at power and lift up the people who refuse to back down. Tap like if you believe courage is contagious and send this to someone who needs proof that persistence matters. Our uploads land weekly, full of voices that too often get drowned out. Turn on notifications so you're standing in the front row when they do, because the most important stories are frequently the ones someone tried to bury. Black Culture Story, amplifying what needs to be heard. Bonus scene recorded after the ceremony. Naomi, Lena, Serena, and Alex sit around the old cabin table, now polished and stubborn. Case files have been replaced by grant proposals and a whiteboard of new intakes. "Remember Unit 17?" Alex says, grinning. "Leased to a co-op now and actual furniture this time." Serena snorts. "What a concept. Paperwork that matches physics." Lena flips open a reporter's notebook she can't quit. "County Sheriff Tipster says their evidence room sprouted legs 2 summers ago." Naomi nods. "Then we start there. Patterns, chain of custody. Who signs off at midnight?" The creek outside talks to stones. The work is slower now, but it is work they choose. Back in Millfield, a mural fades into color on a brick wall near the courthouse. A river, a badge, a pair of hands cutting a knot. Teenagers on ladders paint through a Saturday, supervised by an art teacher who once filed a complaint and was ignored. Naomi stops by with ice cream sandwiches. "You're the lawyer," a girl says, green paint on her sleeve. "One of them," Naomi answers. "Lots of us now." The girl grins, then gets back to work, filling in the knot strands with care. Behind them, the courthouse glints without looking smug. Buildings can learn, Naomi thinks, but only after people do. In a conference room at the precinct, Cole reviews body cam audit logs with a civilian panel. Nurses, teachers, a retired machinist. They argue, they clarify, and then they agree more than anyone expected. "Transparency is expensive," the machinist says. "So is secrecy," Serena replies. At the community center, Shonda meets with the 7 exonerated clients to plan expungements and job referrals. A toddler toddles between chairs, loud with the entitlement of children who haven't learned fear. Good sound, Naomi says, smiling. Lena photographs the meeting with consent forms stacked beside cookies. New cases? Naomi asks. Always, Shonda says, but they look different when they're not alone. Hale's trial arrives with less thunder than his arrest, just steady steps toward reckoning. Witnesses testify, Heller about pressure and envelopes, a warehouse guard about cash, Voss about orders he stopped questioning. Samuel's notes, authenticated, thread through it all. The defense tries to turn the whole thing into fog. The jury takes 2 days. The verdict lands like truth that has waited its turn, guilty on all counts. Sentencing follows a month later. The judge speaks about betrayal and theft and the small violences that multiply into communities breaking. Hale stares straight ahead as if eye contact could still save him. It cannot. The system clears its throat and writes it down. Naomi visits the state prison only once. She doesn't need to gloat. She meets instead with men and women who lost years to Hale's machine, now home, navigating paperwork and dinner tables and memory. One man brings her a box of bus tickets from court dates he almost missed. Proof I tried, he says. She nods, touched and angry all over again. Later, she sits on the cabin porch with Lena, eating sandwiches. Do you ever wish you'd left? Lena asks. Sometimes, Naomi says, but then I think about Dad, about Shonda, about the girl painting that knot the creek keeps talking. They listen. In Chicago, AUSA Reyes files a memorandum finally connecting Samuel's last packet to the original tip that kept the federal investigation alive. The Chicago field office reshuffles publicly and loudly this time. The former mole pleads guilty to obstruction and bribery. Newspapers that once clipped Naomi's mugshot now run op-eds about reform and stubborn watchdogging. Lena hates the word hero, but tolerates it when it funds the initiative's housing grant. Alex rolls out a secure reporting app that works on flip phones and ancient desktops. If you can text, you can tell us, he says at a library demo. People do more than anyone expects. Grants flow, so do cases. A mother whose son's pocket weighed more in a report than in her hand. A warehouse worker fired after refusing to sign a blank inventory. A rookie cop who didn't like the smell of something that everyone else called normal. The initiative grows carefully, choosing staff by ethics and edge. Serena trains a new squad in forensic accounting that starts with community banks. Cole institutionalizes a policy that no major arrest stands without 2 independent video angles. Redundancy isn't waste, he tells the city council. It's insurance. For once, the council nods like they've learned a lesson worth keeping. Lena's series continues. Quiet follow-ups, not victory laps. She writes about the 7 exonerated starting businesses, about a judge retiring without fanfare, about body cams that turned out to be more than props. She interviews a kid who watched his older brother come home and start a landscaping company with a parole officer's advice. He makes our yard look like TV, the kid says, proud. Naomi reads the piece on a bus between hearings and smiles into her scarf. Small brightness travels well, she thinks. It doesn't need a megaphone, just a map. She adds 2 names to a list titled People Who Make It Better. The initiative's first big civil suit lands, a class action on behalf of the framed defendants. Serena and a national firm build it brick by brick. Procedural shortcuts, doctored logs, missing tapes. The city's attorneys bargain on the courthouse steps, then stall, then bargain again. We want money and promises, Naomi says. We want posts nobody can pull. The settlement arrives a year later, compensation and policy that can't be rescinded by sigh. The city council votes unanimously, their relief obvious. Outside, cameras ask for quotes. Naomi thanks clients by name instead of practicing lines. Faces matter more than sound bites. It lands differently on the evening news. Cole turns down the permanent chief job, recommending a younger commander he's mentored, Tanya Brooks, a stickler with humor. You'll sleep less, Naomi warns her. Then I'll nap harder, Brooks replies. The department starts publishing quarterly metrics, stop data, consent search rates, complaints, and their dispositions. People argue with the numbers, which means they're reading them. At the community center, Shonda pilots a Know Your Rights and Your Roots class that pairs legal basics with transit maps because showing up is half of victory. The class fills. A teenager asks if cops can take his bike for evidence. Not without paperwork, Shonda says. He grins like someone just handed him a key. In a small ceremony, the city renames the block by Riverside Storage. A new sign reads Carter Way. Naomi's not sure how to be honored without feeling like she's stealing the spotlight from the people who never got it. Lena elbows her. Dad would have taken a cheesy photo, she whispers. They do, laughing. Later, Naomi wanders past Unit 17, door rolled up, the space full of couches that are actually couches. A woman choosing a love seat asks if it's durable. Depends on the kids, Naomi says. They both laugh. Life refuses to be only about courtrooms and speeches. It keeps insisting on furniture and jokes, and thank God, the high school invites Naomi to speak. She tells a story about questioning and listening, about keeping a notebook and a spare battery, about how power doesn't like being asked for receipts. In the auditorium, a kid in the third row lifts his phone. You recording? She asks, smiling. Yes, ma'am. Good, she says. Make sure you save it twice. Afterward, a science teacher gives her a model of a knot printed on a 3D printer. It's for the desk, he says. We teach kids to untangle things. She thinks of the mural, the teenagers on ladders, the badge painted into river water. She promises herself to visit again. At a bar 2 blocks from the courthouse, the team gathers, not to toast victory, but to mark endurance. Serena nurses tea. Alex orders fries for the table. Lena sips something bright. Cole drops by for 20 minutes and leaves early. Policies don't write themselves. You ever think about leaving Millfield? Alex asks. Every winter, Naomi says. But then spring shows up stubborn. Serena nods. And systems don't reform themselves from plain windows. They fall into easy silence. Outside, a patrol car rolls past, slow and boring, the way Lena hopes most patrols will be remembered. Ordinary can be a revolution when you've met chaos. In a drawer at home, Naomi keeps the watch and the MSDRED in a new case next to a photo of Samuel with a fish too big for the frame. Some nights she can hear the creak at the cabin in her head. Other nights she hears doors and boots and paper. Healing isn't a straight road, it's a switchback you climb with company. When the nightmares come, she texts Lena a fish emoji. Lena replies with a knot. They invented the code when they were kids. It still works. The world is loud, but their shorthand is louder where it counts. It translates to I'm here. Reporters call, documentaries pitch, podcasts ask for hours. Naomi says yes selectively, preferring clinics to cameras. When she does speak, she keeps the lens on clients and on the policies that outlast applause. We didn't slay a dragon, she says in one interview. We mapped a maze and put up signs. Viewers send emails about brothers and moms and neighbors. Some letters include $20 bills. The initiative keeps receipts and thanks. The office walls fill with kids' drawings, scales, rivers, a superhero with a briefcase. Naomi frames the messiest one, a badge melting into a tree. It feels like a thesis for a town trying again. In Hale's appeals, new lawyers try old arguments, selective enforcement, biased judge, compromised witnesses. Courts decline with language that reads like civics class. Voss pleads to lesser counts after a bench lecture that leaves him pale. Benton receives a sentence that will have him home before his 40s. His testimony bought years off, but not absolution. Kincaid flips for a shorter term and a relocation no one will envy. Heller retires early, buys a camper, and sends postcards from state parks as if penance can be mailed. Maybe sometimes it can. Naomi saves the cards in a shoebox labeled weather, things that change slowly and still matter. On a rainy Tuesday, Millfield seems to prefer them. Naomi passes the deli where the clerk handed Lena the USB. She steps in and buys coffee and 2 scratch-offs she doesn't scratch. Your sister was brave, the clerk says, eyes kind. Still is, Naomi answers. You too, he adds, then looks away, embarrassed by his own sincerity. Outside, the mural's knot shines after a fresh, clear coat. Someone has added tiny initials along the strands. Names. The city is writing itself into places that used to hide lies. Naomi stands in the drizzle, letting it beat her lashes, unafraid of being seen as a woman who cries sometimes. The initiative celebrates its first full year. They make a list of numbers that don't tell the whole story and hang it anyway. Clients served, expungements, policy changes, trainings, reported retaliations prevented. I want one more metric, Lena says. Hours of sleep gained by clients. Everyone laughs because it isn't real and then nods because it should be. Serena insists on fire drills for data hygiene. Alex demonstrates how to air gap evidence with flair. Shonda pitches a library pop up for families who can't get across town. Naomi watches and thinks how power used to be a single office. Now it's this table. It's harder to topple a table. At the ribbon cutting for a satellite clinic on the west side, Tanya Brooks speaks first. Policy is a promise, she says, and promises are either kept or they curdle. She looks at the assembled officers. Let's keep them. A retired judge volunteers twice a week to help with sealing records. A choir practices in the next room, harmonies leaking through the drywall. I like our soundtrack, Lena says. Better than Boots. Kids chase each other around a water fountain whose plaque reads, Community paid for this. The line for free legal consults wraps around the hallway and refuses to feel like defeat. It feels like demand meeting supply. At home that night, Naomi opens Samuel's old tackle box, the false bottom, now repurposed to hold things worth keeping, the original USB, the first donation check, a Polaroid of Shonda outside the courthouse with arms up like victory, a cartoon fish Lena drew at 8. She adds a new item, a copy of the settlement agreement with the city, signatures black and sincere. She closes the lid and listens to the quiet. Justice isn't loud most days. It sounds like paper sliding into a folder, like a door unlocking for someone who expected it to stay shut. She clicks off the light and lets the dark be ordinary. In the months that follow, new cases arrive not as avalanches, but as steady snow. A precinct in a neighboring city calls about suspicious inventory shrinkage. A defense attorney emails about a coerced confession. A social worker asks if a client can sit in the lobby because it feels safer than home. Yes, Shonda says, already fetching tea. Naomi presents at a statewide conference about building systems that don't depend on heroes. Hire boring people in the best sense, she says. Process is courage, you can repeat. People take notes. Laughter lands in the right places. When it's over, she calls Lena to argue about dinner, like normal siblings do. Lena's next series follows the money again. She finds that cities spend millions paying for the messes their own employees make, settlements, overtime for sham operations, replacements for broken trust. Her piece suggests a different ledger, preventative spending. Invest in not breaking things, she writes. The editorial board grumbles, then prints it. Readers clip it for fridge magnets. Cole emails her a simple thanks. Tanya Brooks posts the link with a comment. Accountability is cheaper than cleanup. The story ricochets into a legislative hearing 2 months later. Watching on a laptop, Naomi grins. Policy is storytelling people can vote on. It needs proof and plot. The cabin's porch sags a bit more, as porches do. Naomi and Lena talk about replacing boards, then keep the sag because it tells the truth about time. They host a summer picnic there for staff and clients. Kids jump the creek. Adults argue over whether the potato salad should have mustard. Serena tells a story about an accountant who hid fraud in font choices. Alex demos a tiny drone you could mistake for a moth. At dusk, fireflies stitch the air into Morse code. Naomi watches Shonda dance with her nephew and thinks joy is evidence too. Not admissible in court, maybe, but essential on appeal. Before sleep, Naomi reads a letter from a woman in another state who followed the case online. We don't have a Samuel Carter initiative here, it says, but we have people who want to start one. Naomi writes back with a packet, bylaws template, intake forms, a promise to Zoom. In the morning, she will send it and then call the woman to say what matters. Start small, be transparent, make friends with librarians, save receipts, carry pins. She smiles at how mundane revolution is on the ground. It's lists and meetings and someone remembering snacks. And then sometimes it's lightning, but the lists get you to the storm alive. The creek swells after rain and then calms. Naomi sits with a legal pad, drafting a curriculum for public defender interns, cross exam questions, evidence audit checklists, breathing exercises for the hallway outside hostile courtrooms. She adds a section titled When the System Pushes Back. The first line reads, Keep going. Lena arrives with coffee and 3 pens because she knows Naomi will lose too. New tip, she says, waving her phone. Sheriff's deputy wants to talk off record. Naomi nods. We'll bring Shonda. She hears what people mean. They clink paper cups. It's not champagne, but it does the job of saying, on word, if you've come this far with us, through rain and filings and long hallways, thank you. Stories like this aren't just entertainment, they're blueprints and memory. Subscribe to us if you want more work that drags truth into daylight and celebrates the people who refuse to let it slink back to shadow. Tap like if your patience for corruption has expired. Share it with someone who thinks systems are immutable. Maybe they just haven't met enough stubborn people. Our weekly drops aim at the places power hides. Bring a friend, bring a notebook. We'll bring receipts. Turn on notifications so you don't miss new chapters in this ongoing project of accountability. Join a community of listeners and doers who believe that institutions can change because people insist, loudly and quietly, that they must. The most important stories are often the ones that someone important hoped would never surface. We exist to lift those voices and keep them speaking. Because justice isn't a destination, it's a long walk in the rain with good company and the right kind of stubborn. See you next week. Keep your batteries charged, your files backed up, and your courage on you at all times.